Recently, while browsing videos, I stumbled upon a reaction video in my recommended feed. The title of the anime being reacted to instantly caught my attention. The name sparked a flood of memories for me because it'd been so long since I last watched it. It's one of those shows that I hadn't thought about in the years and I hadn't come across much content around it lately. No surprise there, it's been over 17 years since the anime first aired. The nostalgia hit me hard though, and I found myself wanting to dive back into the series, but I wasn't really going to rewatch the entire thing. I thought I'd just revisit some of the more standout moments in the show, the ones that made the show so unforgettable. That led me to a question that I'd never really considered before. Did this ever have a manga adaptation? The short answer is yes, it did, but I've never taken the time to actually read it. Of course, I'm well aware that it's an anime original, meaning it wasn't based on any pre-existing source material like a manga or a light novel. It's one of those stories that was made specifically for the screen, and there's obviously plenty of other anime originals out there that eventually get manga adaptations. This realization got me thinking, that made me wanting to make a video about it. How does the manga hold up compared to the anime? The usual statement in this argument is when people say, quote, "Go read the manga, it's better," when comparing adaptations, but in this case, could that argument work in reverse? And obviously, we have seen cases that show the anime can be way better than its manga, but the argument here is whether or not this specific manga can be good or better replacement than its anime since it came out after. Now, you've seen a thumbnail video, or if you recognize the release date, you might immediately know what I'm talking about, but for those who are younger or newer to the anime, there's a chance you've never even heard of this series. Sadly, it seems like the anime has fallen into the obscure category now, which is honestly shocking to me since this show was so incredible during its time, and it still is. There are two questions that I considered when comparing the two. I'll go by both of them to get a good idea on my thoughts and opinions and which one I would have liked more. Is the art just as good as before? I'm gonna be honest here. It's really good, but there is something missing. The artwork is still very fitting of Gurren Lagann. I think it looks great as a manga just on its own, but if you compare it with the very vibrant, sharp art style of the anime, it's not gonna be as good. I'm sorry. The art is still fantastic. The character designs and gunmen look great. I just personally vibe more with Gurren Lagann's aesthetic being much more colorful because it fits so much more to the atmosphere, whereas if you look at the manga, it definitely feels like I am reading like an early 2000s manga, which it is, but I would never really say the same about the anime because of how the show aged really well, where people would assume that this was released way past like the 2010s or something. Let me emphasize it a little bit more. The art is really good. It did an excellent job in recreating the anime in manga form. It is super stylized and some panels I can argue look way better than the original due to how much cleaner manga art can be and given how detailed you can be when it comes to a single image. So if you ever get second guessing about the art, don't be. The art of Gurren Lagann's manga is amazing. The gunman shots and panels were great to see because you can see a much more close-up still of the action scenes. I mean, what can you really expect? The art from the anime was already so good. The manga's art exceeded my expectations of that. The manga is phenomenal to look at, but the anime still holds a special place in my heart, in terms of visuals at least. I just love how amazingly colorful the series was, added on with its great animation on top of that, even though that doesn't really count. Does the manga add anything meaningful or new to the experience, or did it change anything at all? This segment might be way longer than the previous one, but here goes. The manga changed various things in the way the story was presented and added elements that were not in the anime in the first place. I'll try mentioning them one by one. I think the first one that was slightly changed that came to mind was the way they introduced Kitan, the yellow-haired guy. Him and his sisters were shown at the same time when Vero was introduced, which was way early in the story compared to the anime. It was something I didn't expect that they would change, really. And to be honest, I actually think that change in introduction was done better in the manga because it established a small connection between other characters that we will eventually get to see in the future. It's a small change where I think we never really lost anything character development wise. I think it just added a change that made it more convenient for the readers and made it slightly fast-paced, which I personally quite like that change. It also added a small section about Nia's introduction as well, and included the scene as to how Nia was placed in that container in the first place, which we never really got an answer from the anime about, which is honestly appreciated because that slight addition added more context, also adding a whole new small storyline about Nia and her history, making it more nuanced, adding characters that were not even in the anime, and yet it still works within the story, and I think was a much needed addition if we want to go on about in terms of backstory, I guess. The side characters in the manga are getting more personal screen time, making you feel more connected to the cast instead of just one specific character. Like I said before, even when I it's only like a few panels that probably won't affect the main story, I still appreciate the manga for including those types of moments. Solid indication of characters, well, not solid but clear signs of character developments for the future. Small scenes like that is I think are the things that definitely add more depth in the story, with small character interactions that we didn't get to see in the anime that can really add more in terms of the storytelling and giving us context that we otherwise didn't know about. So that gives the manga a couple of points. Adding new character moments that can make you care more about the side characters. Even when the main story isn't exactly about that, it can be so refreshing at times. I said before that the manga is a little fast-paced in terms of its story progression, but it somehow managed to slow down its pace when it came down to character development like writing. It slowly gets you introduced to other characters even when the manga is like only 60 or so chapters. So it is fast-paced though, especially in the time skip. But the anime I think was also fast-paced, well, not necessarily the whole anime. I think personally the anime was also fast-paced because every episode was very action-centric and we never really had the time to flesh out the other side characters, especially when you compare the way the manga did it. The way the manga is paced and how they changed a few of the events, in my personal opinion, made the story more intriguing to read. Like, even though it's the exact same story, I think the way the manga handled it was better. I wondered if the author probably wanted this change to be included in the anime, but maybe due to unknown circumstances that it wasn't able to make it in the final cut or something. Or maybe the author came up with these ideas after the anime aired. Who knows, but one of you guys can comment down below. Also forgot to mention about the new gunman transformations and fight scenes that weren't in the anime. Those were really cool and surprising to see in it, and I wish it was in the anime in the first place. I won't say anything more because I highly recommend reading it. If you want to check the new gunmans that were shown, they had amazing mecha designs. Hi, this is me editing this. I didn't know during the making of the script, correct me if I'm wrong here, but it looks like the Gurren Lagann movie was actually adapted from this manga. I never watched the movie before, but I realized during the final fight of the manga, I recognized the giant mecha of Gurren Lagann from somewhere. So technically there is an anime of it, so this was just me comparing the stories of the anime to the movie, which I find really funny after coming across that knowledge. Anyways, back to my outdated script, I guess. Okay, my conclusions are, I think the anime is still a much superior choice when it comes down to enjoying the story of Gurren Lagann. Not because of my nostalgia, and I know this may sound like a cheap answer, but I think what really sets it apart is the voice acting and music. A lot of manga are still great stories even when it doesn't have music or animation, obviously. And it's also up to personal preferences, obviously. In the case of Gurren Lagann, I think the events in the story truly shine the most expressed through the voice acting and music. I enjoyed the manga and its way of delivery in dialogue, but whenever Kamen or Simone speaks about believing, I purposely go out of my way to listen to the anime's OST while reading the panels. I think because it was made as a passion project and was made directly as an anime, is where I think adaptations that would come after it will not be able to beat it. And this goes with like some manga as well. This may be extreme examples, but Vagabond and Berserk, if and when there is a proper adaptation, they will never top the original works, no matter how incredible it was made. It will never capture the energy or atmosphere of its original because of the way it was created. And this is not me being biased. I love the anime and the manga, but I think the anime still trumps it above all. And that is my perspective with Gurren Lagann. Thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed the video. Please leave a like down below and subscribe if you are new. Have a wonderful 2025.